Right now on the National Weather Desk, not so sunny. Smoke from the Canadian wildfires makes it all the way to Florida.
Unhealthy air quality there in the orange and moderate air quality there in the yellow.
Changes ahead as some cities face another day of record-breaking heat. Others are preparing for a much-needed blast of fall.
I look at the weather every day looking for when it's finally going to cool down.
Wildlife risks. It may be fun to see animals in the wild, but it can be very dangerous.
And this little guy went after you. That could kill you right there.
Hidden danger. What's killing the fish in this Nevada lake?
We keep seeing water evaporate out of the lake, but the salt doesn't evaporate.
And new information indicates this invasive species may not be as bad as first thought.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. For months, we've been following smoke from Canadian wildfires as it invades the skies of mostly northern cities. But now that is changing. The smoke has now invaded the skies over Florida. This is what Miami looked like yesterday. It wasn't any better on the Gulf side of the state either. This is Siesta Keys. That means unhealthy air quality. It's all because nearly 800 wildfires are still burning in Canada. Meteorologist Michael Ehrenberg explains how it reached Florida and what is expected today.
Well, smoky skies are seen all across the southeast, including Florida, back on Tuesday. The reason, believe it or not, the wildfires across Quebec and Ontario and much of southern Canada. High pressure's clockwise flow brought the smoke into the Atlantic and then pushed it south and west right over Florida during the daytime hours. And as we go on through your Wednesday, there'll still be a little bit of smoke for much of Florida, especially the central northern part of the state, as the clockwise flow of air and high pressure continues to bring the smoke our way. Not as thick as Tuesday. And then on Thursday, much of North Florida will have lighter amounts of smoke across the area. South Florida, I think, will be in the clear. And because of this, there's going to be some unhealthy air quality there in the orange and moderate air quality there in the yellow. Air quality indexes could be 101 to 150. That means members of sensitive groups may experience health effects. The general public is less likely to be experiencing those effects.
For the second time this hurricane season, a storm is making a beeline for Maine. Right now, Tropical Storm Philippe is just north of Puerto Rico, but over the next 2 days, it will head north and then could turn to the west. All of Maine is within the cone of uncertainty. The good news here, Philippe will likely lose some of its power due to colder water of the North Atlantic, but of course, we are still watching. And now to Taiwan, that is preparing for Typhoon Koinu. The storm is near the Philippines and is the equivalent to a Category 3 Atlantic hurricane. It's forecast to make landfall in Taiwan in the next 24 hours as a Level 2 storm and could bring extremely heavy rain and winds. Forecasters say the system will weaken as it moves over Taiwan, but could still bring heavy rain to the southern coast of China in the coming days. For much of the Midwest and Northeast, the big weather story, of course, is the heat. Once again, it will feel more like August than October. Check out some of these high temperatures we could see today. 84 degrees in Chicago, 83 in Flint, Michigan, 88 in Cincinnati, Ohio. But check out Syracuse, New York. The high today could be 88 degrees. The old record, 86 degrees, set in 1951. So that record likely to fall. The average high at this time around 64 degrees in Syracuse. We're also breaking records for global warmth here. The Washington Post is reporting that September was the hottest on record. The average temperature broke the previous record by nearly 1 degree Fahrenheit. That means temperatures were more like July than September. One climate scientist called the September warming, and we're quoting this here, absolutely gobsmackingly bananas. Of course, non-scientists would probably say something a little bit different. After a summer of brutal heat, cooler temperatures could finally find August. Jessica Taylor checked in with Central Texans to learn how they feel about the change.
A cold front is making its way to the Austin area.
Pretty excited. I look at the weather every day looking for when it's finally going to cool down.
The news is exciting for Austinites, especially after experiencing the second hottest summer on record, though it's still too early for some to worry about cold weather preparations.
I haven't really even thought about it yet. It's still too hot to even think about getting the sweaters out. So
residents in Round Rock are still dealing with one recent weather event.
Pretty major. The skylight went first, and of course then the roof.
Judy Olivares still needs some repairs done after her roof, windows, and garage were damaged by the intense hailstorm last week.
I have a catastrophe adjuster coming, so I'm waiting on that, and once that gets done, I can get everything rolling as far as repairs.
As far as potential rain or temperature changes, Olivares is confident her house of 18 years can handle it.
I was a little nervous because the adjuster's going to be here, but I think he's going to be here, I think, before the rain actually starts hitting. And I'm not, with everything covered, I'm not really worried about it.
And now to Alabama, where rainfall across the state has been scarce this past month. Gracie Johnson reports on how strawberry and cattle farmers are feeling the pinch.
The beds was being wet. We put them in the ground, cover them up, but we're just having a hard time getting our beds wet to plant.
Ideally, farmers hope to have strawberries planted by October 1st. The first step is making the beds, which means the ground has to contain the perfect amount of moisture.
We've had not enough moisture in the month of September. We've had a little over an inch of rain, like 1.3 inches of rain. We normally need an inch to an inch and a half a week.
Watts said they have about 30,000 beds made and 40,000 to go. They were able to do this by pumping water into these areas, which forced them to take the water system away from their pumpkins. The dry weather affecting much more than just this planting season.
For the horticulture guy that's planting cover crops, strawberries, anything like that, even the hay farmer, we're trying to get rye, wheat, oats, something planted so that we might get a cut in hay next spring. We wish we had some rain at this time of year.
Evan Nelson, the owner of Nelson Cattle and Hay in Bessemer, said they are seeing the effects of this dry season as well. Because of the dry weather, he told me they will likely have to start feeding their cattle hay earlier than usual.
We hope we've put up enough hay to last us through the winter. And if not, we'll have to go out and purchase more hay. And when you're a hay farmer having to buy hay, it's not a good day.
Well, elk have become a popular attraction in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park since they were reintroduced in 2001. Visitors can often see them inside the park and even beyond its borders. But right now is mating season. At the same time, human interactions are going up in the park. Experts are reminding the public to stay at least 100 yards away from elk, especially now when bulls can be aggressive.
Just think if you were there and this little guy went after you, that could kill you right there. So people, please be safe. Be elk smart, please.
Nelson says he'd like to see more volunteers and staffing to enforce the distance rule. The National Park Service says if a person gets so close to an elk or other wildlife that it stops feeding, changes travel directions, or changes its behavior, that's also too close. To give you an idea of just how powerful elk can be, check out these pictures right here. They came from Jasper National Park in Alberta, Canada. A bull elk charged at these trucks when the park visitors stopped to take some pictures. No one was hurt, but it serves as a great reminder here to give elk space, especially during rutting season. And you can expect an alert on your phone and TV today. FEMA is going to test the National Wireless Emergency Alert System at 2:20 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. An alert will also be sent out on the radio. The test is required every 3 years just to make sure systems are alerting people about things like an Amber Alert, safety threats and also severe weather threats and stuff like that. And here is some food for thought, or at least food may actually come to mind because of this newly released image from NASA capturing a moon that orbits Saturn. Some say it's shaped like a ravioli. This image of Saturn's innermost moon was taken around 6 years ago, but we are now just getting our first look. Scientists say Pan has a prominent ridge along its equator, and that gives the moon its distinctive shape. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll head to Wisconsin for a look at the start of their salmon spawning season. And we'll tell you about the new invasive species threatening Michigan forests. But before we take a short break, let's do a test of our weather wit. Precipitation that vaporizes before making it to the Earth's surface is known as what? Fog, virga, cloud droplets, or haze? The answer when we return.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Another mild day is on tap today with temps surging back into the 70s and 80s. You'll notice a touch of humidity once again. Notice the lack of clouds. It's going to be a beautiful day. High pressure is firmly in control of our weather in the Northeast. Now, as we head into Thursday, some low clouds and fog will try to stream into at least eastern parts of New England. That may be slow to burn off in the morning, but another decent day. It's not going to feel much like October. That rain you see there arrives on Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor, looks like a nice comfortable start. Lots of 60s at 9 a.m. By noontime, we're well into the 70s, and temperatures going to be generally right close to or just above the 80-degree mark. Most neighborhoods heading through our day on Wednesday. So another mainly sunny and warm day, maybe a patch or two of fog to start in the morning. So watch for that. Otherwise, the next weather make with rain and much cooler temperatures arriving by the weekend. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. Nashville about 88 degrees, 80 in Raleigh. Atlanta, 84 degrees, 88 in Birmingham. Mobile about 90, a little hot there, 91 in Tampa, 87 West Palm. It looks like we are seeing plenty of sunshine with those high pressure in place on eastern portions of Tennessee, but there will be some showers and thunderstorms lining up. Moving into the Mississippi Delta, Memphis could get some heavy showers and thunderstorms, as well as Jackson through the overnight.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
An early morning sun in Michigan highlights 3 swans, developing fall colors at a local park, along with reflections forming nature's version of a watercolor painting. And a post-storm rainbow is frozen in time over the Oregon Mountains in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
And before the break, we asked you to identify precipitation that vaporizes before it reaches the Earth's surface. The answer is Virga. This happens when precipitation falls from the base of a cloud but evaporates when it hits drier air on the way down. That's why we never see it and the ground remains dry, but the radar can still pick it up. An example of this is captured in this photo by Tom Harris of Traverse City, Michigan. And if you want to test more of your weather knowledge, head over to our Instagram account, where every Wednesday we post a short weather quiz. Just search the National Weather Desk or on Instagram, or scan the QR code on the bottom left corner of your screen. Be sure to give us a follow when you are there. And things are looking up for Walker Lake in Nevada since a push was started to save it from a possible ecological collapse. Effects from the wet winter seem to be making a positive difference. But is it enough? Kim Burrows visited the area in May when the spring runoff was starting. She has an October update.
I mean, it's $1 million view.
Walker Lake, 11 miles of beauty, but there's something lurking in the water.
We keep seeing water evaporate out of the lake, but the salt doesn't evaporate.
The concentrated salt has killed off the fish, the festivities, and many of the water sports on the lake.
When the fish left, it just destroyed the tourism and the economy here. People would drive from other states to come down here.
Hundreds of years ago, the lake used to be half the size of Lake Tahoe. Today, it's a quarter of it. And the more recent years-long drought has made things worse, which directly impacts the small communities of Walker Lake, Hawthorne, and Schurz on Native American land. Then Nevada got a record winter with record runoff.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, prayers were answered for sure.
This summer, the lake is up 15.3 feet. That is helping bring back the people Another year like the last one, and it could bring back the fish.
The Conservancy says over the last 4 years, the river has been able to connect to the lake. This last year, of course, was due in part to that winter, but also because of efforts made upstream.
The Walker Basin Conservancy provided farmers with payments to move a record amount of water to Walker Lake.
The water that's stored in Bridgeport and Topaz, we were able to move a portion of that water to Walker Lake instead of leaving it in the reservoirs over the winter. Long term, we can do this and we can reestablish a fishery and have a healthy agricultural economy in the Walker.
Do you need a bag for that?
These two owners opened the Bighorn Crossing convenience store and restaurant 2 months ago just across from Walker Lake.
Thanks for coming in.
They're banking on a good business from the rising water to keep them afloat. Water levels up 15 feet this summer is good news.
Bring it on. More, please.
For the owners who sunk every penny they had into the business. The owners say they're here for the long term, and they hope the lake will be too.
See you guys.
At Walker Lake, Kim Burrows reporting.
And the streams of Wisconsin's Chinook salmon are making their way upstream to spawn, and scientists are there along the way to gather information about their eggs. Eric Peterson has more.
At the Strawberry Creek Salmon Spawning Facility, hundreds of Chinook salmon are pushed to the end of this holding pond.
They make their way up into the pond and they have one thing in mind, and that's go straight upstream.
Wild Rose Fish Hatchery Supervisor Jesse Landwehr says the slow process involves netting the salmon and transporting them up and out of the water. Biologists gather information about the fish and take as many tiny round eggs as needed.
The fish that are coming in, they're at the end of their life cycle. Their last goal is to spawn and lay eggs, and we're going to use that offspring, those eggs, to produce fish for future years.
Scientists say the sport fish were introduced to Lake Michigan in the 1960s, but have had trouble reproducing naturally. Enter the Strawberry Creek facility. DNR Fisheries Team Supervisor Nick Legler says flowing water at this site typically provides a helping hand.
We actually have a big diesel engine that we pump water from the lake up into the stream and the pond. But unfortunately, sometime between yesterday evening and this morning, it seems like the pump stopped pumping water. So we came here this morning and there was very little flow going through the pond, and the dissolved oxygen levels were relatively low, so a lot of the salmon did end up dying.
DNR officials estimate about 40% of the salmon died. Jesse Landwehr says these eggs will not be shipped to the hatchery, but used for bait instead. He says the healthy fish were sent to a local food pantry.
That's the advantage of the season being a long season. It's a 3-week run on Chinook salmon, so it's day one. It's an early run in the season anyway, so we'll regroup and we'll be ready and still be able to get all the eggs that we need to meet our stocking quotas in the future.
A new invasive species called the balsam woolly has recently been found in northern Michigan. Meteorologist Heather Burke explains what this insect is and how it's threatening local forests.
So what is this insect?
Balsam woolly adelgid is a small 1 millimeter sap-sucking insect that attacks true fir trees. So that's balsam fir, Fraser fir, white, or some people call it concolor fir. And after many years of repeated attack from balsam woolly adelgid, they will eventually kill the fir tree.
It was found in Missaukee County by a forester.
It was spotted in Missaukee County recently on a private piece of property while a forester was doing actually writing a forest management plan for the landowner. And then we were contacted and we'll be addressing that situation.
After repeated attacks, BWA is deadly to the trees.
And we don't want that, obviously. We've got almost 2 billion fir trees here in the state of Michigan. And fir is also, those trees are also an important Christmas tree. Christmas tree growers grow a lot of different kinds of fir trees because they make great Christmas trees. And we want to protect Michigan's Christmas trees so that folks can continue to enjoy them and that they can be exported to other states for folks in other states to enjoy. And check your firs for little white fuzzy tufts that are going to be on the main trunk of the tree. And then also look for a tree that has a top that's leaning or branches that they look dead and they've turned red in color. And then lastly, the most interesting symptom of balsam woolly adelgid, it's called gouting. and it's where the end of the branches will be covered with what I can only describe as looking like a kind of a gray slime that's dried on the end of the branch. So the branch is really distorted.
And a study out of Penn State says another invasive species, the spotted lanternfly, might not be as bad as once thought. The study says there are only a few types of plants that the insects will stay on for months and months, and that is what is likely to really cause damage, according to these scientists. The real threat is mostly for young tree saplings and select fruit trees, so you can continue to smash them if you see them, but if you don't, they'll end up moving on out of your garden or pretty quickly on their own. And time now for a short break, but first, let's take in the views of glaciers in Iceland from above.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We are watching rain slowly moving its way across the Midwest. Cooler behind it, highs in the 60s, but out ahead of it, enjoy the mid-80s while you have them, because it might be the final mid-80 degree days of the year for the Ohio Valley. That rain continues moving its way to the east for your Thursday, and that cooler air really settles in for us by Friday with a lot of highs in the 50s and 60s, holding on to the 70s at least through Friday in the Ohio Valley.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're waking up into the 70s and 80s to the south. Really humid, but dry and a little cooler up to the north into the 60s. A weak cold front will start to move a little bit further down to the south. We'll see a stream of moisture coming up all the way from South Texas into Oklahoma. Could see some big storms up into Oklahoma as well. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Hi there, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Good Wednesday morning to you. Some beautiful weather out in the desert Southwest and back toward the California coastline. October is the time of year where the sun really starts shining again and the fog season is over in San Francisco. We hit 85 in the city by the Bay today. 76, a good-looking day in Albuquerque, back to 70 in Spokane. High and dry all the way through the Intermountain West. Just a couple of sprinkles in Montana near the Canadian border. And that's the scene from here.
A treat from the skies is arriving soon. Meteorologist Ryan Mirando has more on the annular solar eclipse.
Not this Saturday, but next Saturday we have an annular solar eclipse. It's annular because the moon isn't quite big enough to cover the entire sun, but areas in the path of totality, it'll be basically fully covered. Here in the southeast, these are Eastern Standard Times, 11:45. The eclipse begins in the southeast. It won't be fully covering up. About 50% of the sun will be eclipsed, and it moves out at about 2:48 p.m. Remember, you never want to look directly at the sun. You want to get your ISO certified glasses. A good idea to do that or buy them online today or tomorrow so that they arrive in time for the eclipse that's happening next Saturday on October the 14th. The path of totality moves it through Texas, the Four Corners, up through Nevada and Oregon, 75% further east, about 50% eclipse further east, but everyone should be able to see some sort of the sun being covered with those glasses on. But you can get a secondary use if you don't have any. There'll be another total eclipse next year in about 6 months on April 8th, 2024. This one will be more favored for the East Coast. The path of totality moves it through the Midwest and up through the Northeast, but even areas in the Southeast getting a lot better coverage, about 75%. Remember, though, never look directly at the sun.
And thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how to stay safe when driving on roads covered with fall leaves. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Wednesday. And we're going to see you right back here tomorrow.